Awesome. Tuned up at this moment.
You're live, Michael.
If I'm not. Can you convert me to representative?
Yeah, I don't like already. You good? Yeah. Good. We'd like to welcome everyone here this evening for the planning and zoning meeting of what's the date today?
May 20th.
The 20th of May, 2026, at the Jefferson County Commissioners meeting. To begin with, we'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, that would do it, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As these proceedings are recorded, we will ask for an identification of staff and the board members. Actually, let's start with Vern. Vern Ulrich, Operations Manager.
Bill Mullerton, Planning Administrator.
Jenna Hennekins, planner.
Trevor Arnold, Board. Sean Priest, Board. Michael Clark, Board. Warren Albertson, Board. Jared Arnold, Board.
Kristen Walker, minutes.
Thank you. Please be advised that these proceedings are recorded in more ways than one. And so we do ask that everyone who speaks during the meeting speak clearly and into one of the provided microphones we have and identify themselves before speaking on record. The minutes from our previous meeting were disseminated to the board. Do we have any change in their, do I have a motion to accept as constituted? Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from the April 15th Planning and Zoning public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Has everyone reviewed the agenda, and is there anyone that has potential conflicts of interest or any ex parte communications regarding any of the matters before us? Okay. We do ask anyone who wishes to offer testimony in any of the issues tonight, make sure you've signed in on the sign-up sheet over here on the side. We will briefly go over our conduct for the rules of the meeting. We do ask everyone to silence your cell phones, and do ask that you don't talk amongst yourself during the testimony and during our discussion. We do ask that you not shout comments from the audience or attempt to disagree with testimony. Do allow those who are speaking the courtesy to offer their testimony. We do ask that you not use profanity or vulgarity, includes the board, but, and ask you to avoid personal attacks or aggressive actions. And, just if there's any, like, if you have large hats or anything, if it blocks the view, please remove those. We do ask, we'd like you to know that the Planning and Zoning Commission here are all volunteers. We are not compensated for this work. And we do take the responsibility we have very seriously. Although sometimes we do tend to become a little lighthearted because, frankly, we have to do that sometimes. We do understand that these decisions do affect the land and the public in question for generations. A lot of we do, they last forever. But we do our best to understand the issues and to base our decisions on the laws and ordinances of the state of Idaho and Jefferson County, which we are required to apply and to apply them accurately and objectively. Our goal is to promote land use that will be of the greatest benefit to our current and future populations. But we will state that we're not here to answer your questions. We are here to hear relevant facts for the matters before us. We will do our best to provide the information, but again, we're not here to answer those questions. If there's anyone who wishes to submit written testimony in lieu of verbal testimony, that just needs to be submitted before the matter is heard. And all those who have signed a roster will be invited to come forward at some point to offer the verbal or written testimony. When it is your turn, please speak directly into the microphone, state your name and your address before providing your testimony. We do ask that you limit your testimony to 5 minutes. So we do have a timer and we'll try to stay with that. And we do ask that testimony not be duplicated and that the testimony is addressed to us as a commission and not the audience. As we begin, each staff has prepared a package of information for each of the matters under consideration. We do often ask some questions and ask that for recommendations, but ultimately the commissioners are the ones that have the deciding vote. So to begin with, we ask the staff to offer any information for consideration. For example, the zoning laws, ordinances that are relevant to the matter, staff's views on whether the application conforms to those laws and ordinances, input from the agencies or departments, if the property is in the floodplain, areas of impact or other special areas, any potential interest issues with the application. Then the applicant or an agent of the applicant is offered time to present the matter before the commission. It is expected that the applicant will have read and understood the comprehensive plan, will show us how the proposal conforms to those local laws, that they understand the local land use planning act and the other state and local ordinances that are of impact. Following that, and the commission may ask questions during that time. Following that, the commission will accept testimony from those signed up on the roster. Following the completion of public testimony, the presenter will be granted time to respond to and rebut specific points of testimony offered in the hearing, but may not offer new testimony. After the presenter's final remarks, public testimony matter is being considered is closed, and then we enter the discussion. If additional information is needed by the commissioner or the commission, public testimony portion may be reopened to admit further testimony. This requires a motion from the commission to reopen the testimony. If it passes, then all sides will be given the opportunity to provide the needed information. After all public testimony concludes, the commission will deliberate on record and will render by vote one of the following possible decisions: recommending that the County Board of Commissioners approve the application submitted, recommend that the Board of County Commissioners to approve it with conditions, or recommend that they deny it. In some instances, we have deciding vote, and in that case, we will vote to approve as submitted, approve with conditions, or to deny as submitted. Or in some cases, we will table the matter pending additional information and clarification, and then at what time that hearing will be reopened. On rare occasions, we do take the opportunity to decide on a matter, and we have 28 days to do that. In that case, we will generally render a written decision within those 28 days. We again thank you for your participation and for being here this evening. With that, we'll go ahead and begin our hearing. hearing this evening. First item on the agenda, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Just real quick, just let's note that the application for 100 Chase has been taken. It has been rescheduled for next month, June 17th. So folks may receive notices today for that June 17th hearing, but it is not on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
So just make that clear in case anybody.
Did everyone hear that? If you're here for the 100 Chase application, that has been postponed to June 17th. Thank you. Okay, so back to item number 1, zone 26-0003. Gordon Boyle is applying for a zone map amendment request to change the zone for parcel RP05N 38E044350 from Ag 40 to residential 5. Project is on 21.741 acres located off of Twin Butte Road in a portion of Section 4, Township 5 North, Range 38 East, the Voice Meridian. We have a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So we're looking at the zone map and the comprehensive plan map for this particular parcel. The zoning is currently Ag 40. And then the comprehensive plan map shows agriculture use. And while we're still on this slide, just looking at the surrounding zoning that is abutting this parcel is to the east, as well as a little bit to the north and south, and that is all R5 zoning. And so essentially that's the reason for the applicant wanting to apply for this zone change to residential for it is to match the zoning that is currently out there, despite the comprehensive plan map not meeting that residential zone designation. And then this is just a aerial map to kind of show what's currently out there. So to the east, the west, and the south is all BLM land, and then as well as some to the north, and then as well as to the north and to the east, there's to the west is there's some smaller residential development that is existing out there. And so we're looking at the criteria for approving the zone change. Is does it adhere to the comprehensive plan? And while the comprehensive plan map does show for agriculture designation, that does not necessarily mean that it can't meet the surrounding uses based on policy standards. And so when looking at the surrounding property uses, to go from the Ag 40 to the R5, since there is that existing R5 zoning with some residential development, it wouldn't show that it would be not necessarily, or it wouldn't be that it could match the existing layout of what's surrounding the property. And then with conformance to the R5 zone regulation is that it is I believe it's roughly a 20-acre piece of property. So to be able to split them into 5-acre parcels, that would be able to meet that R5 zoning minimum. And then when it comes to the surrounding properties, as well as the ability for agency services to access the property, it is just off of Twin Butte Road. It's not an area of impact. It is a more rural location compared to being near city limits. But when we sent out notice to agencies, we didn't receive any comments at the time that the staff report was made, but we did receive one comment from BLM that was basically just saying to make sure that people aren't accessing their property, since that property is kind of touching the BLM land.
Did they give you any kind of indication what that looks like, either that there has to be a moat, or
So I
does
think,
that make sense what I'm asking?
yeah, so I think it's just they were talking about kind of what I'm pointing at on the mouse is they just wanted to make sure that where the tip of this property occurs is that they weren't going to cross onto BLM land at this point. It's kind of what they were doing.
Create access to the property.
Yeah, yeah. Overall, the staff recommended approval for this application, as that there was no no outstanding, concerns with changing this from Act 40 to R5. Especially when the only comment we had received was from the BLM agency, and we didn't receive any public comment or, comment from any other agencies. And then this last slide is just showing the recommended motion to approve or deny the application. As it is, it would be a recommendation to the board. And that is all.
Okay. Do we have someone here to present?
My name's Gordon Boyle.
Yeah, is that turned on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, yeah. You know what, sit down and go ahead and speak. I'm sorry if, that way make sure it gets recorded. Thank you.
My name's Gordon Boyle, and I'm with the applicant. AD Enterprises owns the property, but it is a family. And the narrative we submitted pretty much sums up just wanting to change this over to residential versus the agriculture. It's just sagebrush right now. It's never been in production of any way or.
Okay, any questions from board? Okay, thank you.
You don't.
I have no one signed up to speak in favor, neutral, or in opposition. Does anybody wish to? Okay. You want to rebut anything? Okay. We'll close the public testimony portion of the hearing this evening for discussion from the board.
This is just down the road from what happened a few months ago. That's right. Sort of.
Yeah.
Kind of different role, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah, you know, back when all of this stuff got sown, I'm not sure what the thinking was, you know, why the five zoning went in like it did. This is the parcel that got sown from Ag 40 to Ag 20 several months ago. But this R5 on the right hand side of this Twin Butte Road, the borders right up against Madison. That's kind of where this. Hang out. Why do I always miss this? It's right here, right? I mean, but it's, you know, it's BLM land all around it. And so, making the argument that it's just impossible for this to spread, right? Usually when you're looking at things like this, you're wondering how can it spread, and really all we're doing is making this parcel consistent with what it's surrounding. These are all, you know, zoned 5 acre lots. They're not 5 acre lots, they're smaller. The bigger. Or 5.8 acres. But, and then this one right here, that's zoned R5 is BLM, and this one is zoned R5 is BLM. And like I said, I'm not quite sure how all this stuff happens, but this parcel just kind of got left out of that thought process. So that's why we indicated that it was in compliance with the comprehensive plan, because it matched what it was surrounding. So. And then this is Madison. In Madison County, their transition zone is 2.5 acre minimum. And so, you know, we've had a few requests from folks, well, why can't we be 2.5 acre minimum? I'm like, well, because you're not Madison County, you're an annex. And you can. So. Yeah. So that's the request, is to change that partial.
Three wells. The well, other.
It's not, yes.
Should see the current rulers, that doesn't show where there's anything on.
Turn the covers off. Yep. See, and to his point, it's obviously not been farming. In contrast with what's across the street.
Yeah, I mean, to your question, Milton, it was the properties just to the north were part of the development that they designed around wanting to have equestrian access across the back side of all the, and so then it was no, it was designed as such, but they did not want to have smaller portions, and it really, you know, at the time there really was really no agriculture at all there, and it seemed appropriate to do that, because what it did is it allowed people to again have that R5 spacing. You said some of them were smaller. It was done as a clustering, so that was the reason for it. Sure. Is it hot and dry? Yes.
You know, the couple things that usually banter about most when we're presented with these zone changes is, you know, we're removing prime agricultural soil. I don't think that's the case here. It's not spot zoning. It fits within the surrounding area. It will be used the same as the rest of it is. I don't think the commissioner would have any problem with recommending that. Anybody see any reason contrary?
No, and I think, you know, looking in the staff report as well, you know, there were some of the one thing that did come up was in somewhat contradiction to the comprehensive plan, saying that you want to drive, you know, higher levels of density towards the city, but in this particular case, it's kind of an outlier, and as pointed out in the, you know, some of the facts of finding that it is not going to be injurious to surrounding property owners, you know. And in this case, there's also not there's no access points into the ground that could potentially, you know, be argued as far as access. So I don't see that becoming an issue either.
I'd like to take a motion. We approve.
Recommend. It's okay.
Yes, sorry. We recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Zone change, case number zone 26-0003. And include the recommendations staff has noted. The 5 recommendations at the end of the report. I'll second.
Any additional discussion or any facts finding you guys want to add?
Well, I think when you go considering the wildland interface, it's going to be, you understand, it's going to be up to the owners of the property, fence off the BLM, not BLM to fence them off. I don't see a problem with the zone change. That's good. I was a little curious how the BLM stuff became R5 when BLM wants that.
Right.
Other than that, you know, I mean, I think that needs to be.
As I recall, there may have been some boundary moves when they did the Deer Parks addition out there. There were some other there were some other lines. Not certain, but I believe there was some other things that happened as part of that Deer Parks definition when it went from private into the public as well. It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval to the County Board of Commissioners. I'd just like to add with the addition of the conditions as stated in the staff report. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a variance 26-0004 for Albert and Kaylee Schellenberg. They are requesting a variance for an accessory shed to be 1.5 feet from the south property line where 5 feet is required as per County Code. Chapter 112, section 112-263, subsection C-5A. Project is located at parcel RP 00586003090, containing 0.3 acres in the residential zone lot 9, block 3 of the Pepperwood Crossing subdivision, division number 1, in a portion of section 36 township 4 north range 38 east of Boise Meridian. Staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner. So yes, this application is one that had previously gone before you, where initially they had asked for a 3.5 foot setback. The reason that they come back to reapply is the misunderstanding that the setback goes to the closest point of the structure, that being the eave and not the building wall. And so, being that the previous application had been applied for the 3.5 and not the 1.5, that was what was approved. And so that's why they're just coming back to ask for that 1.5 foot setback where the 5 feet is required. So again, this is the layout of the property that it is approved on three sides with county roads. It is a 0.3 acre lot, so normally it's a 5 foot minimum setback from abutting property lines. And so their request for 1.5 is they had not realized that they needed to be 5 feet, so they had already started constructing the building. And then once the building was, up and constructed, that this was the 1.5 that they had measured out property line. And so we're looking at the 4 criteria. Criteria 1 is that you had turned in the application. Criteria 2, that it being an undue hardship. So as before, it's, the layout of the lot is a unique one where it does have 2 roads bordering it, so it does make it difficult to meet setbacks from roads. The question would still be whether or not it would be considered self-imposed or not, just because the building had begun to be constructed before realizing that the setbacks had to be 5 feet minimum. For criteria 3, that is not in conflict with public interest. Again, there was no comment from surrounding properties, surrounding neighbors, no comment from agencies that were noticed. The one question, or the one thing that still had come up last time that was brought up again was the fire safety concern. And so what the applicants had asked as a possible condition is that they are proposing to have Class A fiber cement siding versus needing to have firewall rated materials for the structure. As with the structure being close, even though it's less than 200 square feet, it doesn't have to meet building code. But with it being so close to the property line, that was a suggestion from the building official to at least have fire rated materials for both the building wall and the eaves, just to, decrease any potential fire issues with abutting properties. And so the applicants are asking for both different type of material that could be used in lieu of what was suggested. And then the last criteria being the minimum variance. So again, initially, before realizing that the setbacks went to 2 feet, that they were asking for that 1.5 foot minimum to be able to create the hardship. And those are the minutes. So overall, the staff just recommend approval, just based off of what had been previously applied for, just with that clarification to have the setback be from the eve and not from the building wall. And then these are just the recommended motions for the board to either approve or deny. That's all.
Do we have someone here to present? Well, to present, someone to present the matter to us.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought the presentation did a good job in summing up what we're requesting. You probably didn't think you'd see us again, but yeah, we did just mistakenly put it from the rear exterior wall rather than it was brought up last meeting, but because the variance was sent out to the public with the 3.5, we had to do this process again. And then for the Class A rated fire spread party board is what we're requesting. If not, we'd have to tear off the existing siding, replace the exterior siding with Type X rated fire rated drywall, and then re-put back on new siding. And so we requested just to have the Class A fire spread James Hardy board siding sufficient.
Any questions from the board?
That's already on the building, is that right? You already have the, let's see.
Yes.
So it wasn't a case of Pinocchio, like the thing grew on you because, you know.
Oh.
Okay, well, thank you.
This is a storage.
Yes, so there's no mechanicals, electric, or gas. It's storing stuff.
Walls, electricity, no.
Do you have any current plans or anything as far as exactly what it's like right now? Yeah.
You also put the Type-X fixing on the inside, or you have?
No, so we right now it's studs, OSB, then we have our house wrap, and then we've got a hard nails.
Yes.
What else? Hey, you know what? Take it over to Milton's camera. Everybody, and just, can you do that?
Or you could maybe email it.
He'll make you do that.
Sure.
He'll do that.
Yep.
And we have been told from multiple neighbors that it's a good aesthetic shed. We spent a lot of money on it, make sure it's still solid.
I have your.
Survived the hurricanes and collapsed.
It has. We're very proud of it.
How far over? They just I made it be longer than typical. I did that just for weather resistance and to prevent moisture intrusion into the lawn assembly.
Daily plans to protect the soffit area.
Um,
The table here mentioned the soffit needing in 1 hour.
yeah, so there's the wall on the east right now. The rear eave is just vinyl, but we were assuming that we would take the vinyl off the rear eave and put back up that same hardy. They have hardwood that you can use for soffit.
I mean, how many square feet?
It's a 20 by 10, so 200.
Okay, I think it just.
Any other questions or wait?
This is security camera, because somebody said. Oh. We do this every.
He's more than her hand on the phone for you.
And vice versa.
Yeah. And all of us.
All right. Now I go back to. There.
Question. Blue line on that picture, is that the property?
I think the aerial imagery is off of that, is the property line on the county GIS. Okay.
I don't, I'm not sure if that's one of the images that I provided, or if that was just one.
That was the one off the overview, so yeah.
But we had a surveyor come measure it, and that's how we got our offsets from the survey.
Okay, I understand that, but it's like, one of the buildings on the other side, it's on line, the two of them, like right next to the line, so there's absolutely zero setbacks.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have, that was on.
And I think where he is, he probably has about a foot. So, not
He's over a foot on your property.
no, on his side. So I think the aerial imagery is. Making
It's
it
what you
easier,
guys
yeah.
had on your. Have to ask, this is a very question.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you.
One.
Signed up to speak in favor, Shannon Marley.
You know where I live and everything.
Yeah.
Shannon Marley, I live at 20 North Elm Lane in the Pepperwood subdivision. This little shed, as you can tell, beautifies our neighborhood. It's adorable. We have a whole bunch of other ones that have gone in, even in the news part of the subdivision, that have not met your criteria. And, you know, when we built our shed, we were told 10 feet. So our shed is 10 feet off of the back fence and the side fence. But this one here, it's really nice. And they worked really hard on it. And I think they have been given this area. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anyone that's signed up to speak in favor, opposition, or neutral. Not. Anything you want to rebut? No. Okay.
No.
Public hearing portion and discussion from the board.
Yeah, but no. The question is for the admin, that this 3/10 of an acre lot, they will not control the lot, that's the subdivision. Well, it says it was 3/10 of an acre, and I just,
Parcel size is 3/10 of an acre.
Yeah, Pepperwood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have sewer and water.
Okay.
thought they did, I just.
Yeah, no, that's. Yeah, Pepperwood's 300 some odd lots.
Yeah.
With their community sewer and was probably approved, you know,
I know, I,
15 or 20 years ago.
get it, yeah.
Back in the day. No, back in the day, the third acre was.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Like, hey, last time, we realized where this building was located. You know, the variance was for 3.5 feet. Which I understand is just. We, you know, yeah, we misunderstood that. I mean, I think we knew where the building was located when we made the decision last time. Yeah. I don't think it should. We knew it was 3.5 feet to the outside wall. We're just correcting that it actually needs to be identified as 1.5.
And then the E.
Yeah, and he already has the 1 hour rated product on the outside. Or Class A, it's Class A, sorry, thank you. But yes, no, it's not a highly flammable material on the outside.
Well, and the idea behind that is actually self-preservation. It's actually protection. Yeah.
You know, they could store likely lawnmowers, gasoline, oil soap frags. There is some risk of fire there, but I believe it's very little. The neighbor hasn't come in to complain this time or last. The neighbor's not worried about themselves. I see no reason that we shouldn't approve this. Dissenting thoughts?
The only thing I was gonna add was the eave's always been a protective area where fire, like say eve comes in, but that would be from the opposing neighbor. I don't see any reason to have them do anything more than they've done for fire protection, in my opinion. With that, we could make a motion to approve the variance file variance 26-004, requesting that the shed rear setback is measured to the outer edge of the roof eave be reduced to 1.5 feet from the property line where 5 foot is required. Subject to the condition that the rear wall of the shed be constructed with fibers and materials equivalent to Class A frame stud assembly, which I believe has already been done based on the findings of facts and conclusions.
Looks like that.
Been moved and seconded to approve variance 26-0004. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is conditional use permit 26-0001. Property Cadilius is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the use of storing a maximum of 35 recreational vehicles on parcel RP 04N38E02156, where an existing conditional use permit for an animal incinerator operates. Days of operation for proposed use would be 7 days a week, hours from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Customers would be required to empty their waste tanks prior to storage. Parcel contains 2.27 acres in the Ag 10 zone located out north, 3750 east in a portion of Section 2, Township 4 North, Range 30 east, 40 West. Staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we're looking at the zone map and looking at the aerial map surrounding parcels. The zone map is Ag 10, which to store RV trailers is permitted in that zone with conditional use permits. That's why the applicant is here today requesting that that permit. And then we're looking at the surrounding properties. There's only one other residence that's in nearby vicinity, and the other surrounding parcels are either farmland or undeveloped ground. And so I'm looking at the criteria for approving or denying an application. The applicant met all requirements that were asked of. The only one that is potential condition as there was an agency comment from Road and Bridge where they had concern with right of way and being able to turn around. It's not on the applicant to be able to provide that, but that was just a comment that had been received by Road and Bridge as we were just addressing their concerns with that road as it does come to a dead end. But overall, that the application meets the comprehensive plan. Okay. So it meets the comprehensive plan. There's no issues with surrounding property uses, as it's just storing, RV trailers on the property. There's 10-foot setbacks in the north and west side of the property lines. There is that buffer, from the other, property. And then based on the applicant's letter, what they were wanting to be able to provide and what they were listing, that it meets the conditions with, storing RVs, providing the hours. They had mentioned that the current condition use permit that is on the property, that the activity for that one is only roughly once a week. So in terms of additional traffic being added onto that road, other than the potential RV trailers, being driven in to be stored, didn't show to be a large impact on that road. And so again, these are just agencies that were notified, and Road and Bridges are just their right of way concern. So overall, staff recommends approval with the listed conditions. Some of these that are just standard with local condition use permits. There's an annual review for these permits. There's an extension to the use. The applicant would have to come back and apply for a modification. Being the permit runs with the property owner, that the issues will be put against property owner's warranty, just to show that linkage between the permit and the property owner. As part of their letter, they had mentioned that they at some point would like to be able to have a coded access gate and security cameras to be installed on the property, just for security purposes. Because that was just I can get a recommendation to be added based on what was in the applicant's letter. And then just conditions for limiting the time, and reiterating that the RVs are to be emptied before riding on the property, so the dumping of wastewater would be allowed to occur on the property. And then these are the recommended motions to make. It is a final decision, but just recommended if you were to approve or deny the application. And that's all.
Ever ask a question, staff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you show us what Road and Bridge is concerned about turnaround? Oh, it's farther back to you.
Check this one.
They have the space to move around their own property, right?
I think it's my read it already, seems like it already exists right now. Or is there? Fine.
I believe the turnaround.
So right here where the mouse is indicating, this was a turnaround that Road and Bridge had put in place. And then at some point, this property owner had put a gate before that turnaround. And so Road and Bridge was having difficulties in being able to turn around on
Comments on the server in this happened.
Right. It was, one notice was sent that Road and Bridge just saw the road, and not that it affects the permit itself. Mhm.
Oh. Well, I did get your interview, but There it is. Goodness, it goes all around that property. Looks like it's the same map. Yeah.
There's so that one. Yeah, so I believe it's the gate, it's kind of right where the mouse is indicating.
Thank you.
It stops there.
We have somebody here to present. I'm Romney Hiddley. This is Jacqueline Wilson. She'll be speaking mostly on my behalf.
Just as mentioned, sorry, Jacqueline Wilson, 636 East First South in Rigby. As mentioned previously in the application, it's an anticipation of no more than 35 vehicles. There won't be any dumping, any repairs or any of that allowed on site. You know, in order to make sure that things aren't seeping into groundwater or anything like that. Ron did have a conversation with Mike from Road and Bridge about his concern, as well as there's some lilacs on the property that he requested to have trimmed back, so it was a better vantage point to see as vehicles are exiting. And so that's been addressed and taken care of as well. In the past, Fresh Pack, Idaho Foods has used that road to access into their property on the outside. There've been for years and years regular semis coming through to pick up hay at the end of seasons and stuff. And so we don't anticipate that anything to the road would be anything more than what it's already experienced in the past with those heavy machines. Keeping balance from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. to ensure that the neighbors aren't disturbed in the early morning or the late evening as needed. So.
Also, we spoke with Mike, and if that sometimes that gate is shut, and when they come to grade the road, they can't always get through. So there was a big stone for the Staker cremations, but it's been moved, and that entranceway will be made bigger so that they can turn the grader around if the gates are shut. That was Mike at Road and Bridge. Any questions?
So this is just for storage, not repair, or is it?
Yeah, just for storage.
The gate was even worse, yeah.
No, it's been put in by Fresh Pack years ago. They lock it up sometimes, but just you never know when it's going to be shut. Any other questions? Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Signed up to speak in favor. You guys are good. Okay. Sign up to speak neutral. Jeff Stearns.
Well, I'm Jeff Stearns. I'm one of the neighbor in the house. Yes, what's your name? 546-437. I'm for him as far as doing what he can with property. I just want to make sure it's done right so there is no impact. A couple of concerns I have is that road does not have a speed limit posted on it. And so I don't feel like any way to control that if there's not a posted limit in the road. I know Ron himself has had issues with some of the trucks that have been on that road going too fast and nothing's been addressed. So that's kind of my concern. We do have children animals. He's had animals back there, so, I really feel like if we're increasing the traffic on that road, we need to get it posted. And honestly, right now, as far as we can concern, it's a county road, so it's 50 miles an hour, and it's too fast. Another concern I have, any RV has batteries in it. This is fire hazard. Having that many together, I just don't know, you know, if there's safeguards put in place for that, because you can have like fire campers. Then at time, I just need a little more clarification on this 7:30 to 8 p.m. If it's a gated lock, is it only going to be open at that time, where the customer only access it at the time, or is they can have access by code or whatever that way? Because I know how campers are when they come back at, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, if they have access to it, there's not going to be any way they can get in. So if it's only going to be open at that time, I can see that working, but if it's a code access, maybe an issue. Because no matter what you say on the time, that people will be back later. So those are my concerns. I'm happy to see him trying to reach some extra money that way, but I think we need to do it right. But it's the most thing that just has some questions. Concerns on.
Thank you. Right, but thank you. Signed up to speak in opposition, Jody Stearns.
Jody Stearns, 546 North, 3750 East. I wasn't really sure if I should put it under opposition or neutral, but it's kind of the same concerns that my husband had. My big thing is that he is planning on putting gravel down. Right now, they've waived the need for a fence. That's a future option. And so how do you control the time and people coming in with just a handshake? We are on the gravel road, dead end. We do have children. The crematorium has very little traffic, but because of where we sit, completely surrounded by cornfields, there is no extra neighbors or people that are watching or paying attention to the area. And so if it's not locked, what's preventing people from coming down early, leaving late? I have some concerns about safety and issues there with our location. We are very remote and there's not a lot of people around and it's not policed. So I feel the same way as my husband. I'm not trying to put in them what they can, and with their ground, we're in support of the crematorium. It's had very little impact on us. I just want to make sure that this is going to have the same purpose. And I feel like requiring an fence from the start with gated access to limit is something that I would like to see happen.
Thank you. Also signed up to speak in opposition, Shauna Allred.
Well, I live at 533 North, 38 East, Shauna Allred. Some of my concerns is the traffic on this road we're dealing with. We own property on the side. On the west side, we irrigate and the ditch is right there on that side. Can you see the ditch there? Yeah. So my husband there and then they speed back because they can't get through. And so there is high traffic, and I don't know if Road and Bridge would ever consider putting something up that keeps the people more, under control and not in such a big hurry. So I like, concerned about the safety, the road maintenance, the noise, slowing down the traffic with the road sign and visual changes. And no, we can't control individual, but this seems to be 35 seems pretty high for just a small acreage of that.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak or neutral or against. Anybody else wish to speak?
Why is something like this in a commercial area? Why does it have to be in a farming area? Shouldn't this RV place be in a commercial area? If
You'd like to rebut?
rest of the concerns that, sorry,
No,
yeah, Jacqueline Wilson, my address is 636 East First South in Wrigley. Concerning the issues brought up by Jeff and Jody Stearns, as far as no posted, we agree that concern. We don't have control over that. That would be to specifically the safety. We understand it's a low residential area, so there are not a lot of extra eyes to pay attention for things. That's why we want, that's why Ron's looking at getting cameras set up. As far as the timeline for that, it's more based off of this group and then getting finances required in order to get those things. Additionally, as far as a concern for a gate, yes, the gate may not be the initial to get started because the grading that needs to happen for the property, the rocks that need to be taken care of. But it is something that is a high priority, as well as the access time. It will only be accessible from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. because we do have that concern for the neighbors that they're not disturbed at odd hours. Just like there's storage facilities where the gate is only available from such a time to such a time, the same thing will be applicable here. To address the concerns that Shauna Allred had, the crematory only operates once a week in that location. The majority of their cremations are occurring in Idaho Falls. They use that facility as a backup once a week where they do additional. So we're not constantly trying their animals to meet. Most of those to Idaho Falls, and then if they have an overflow, they bring them to the Rigby location to take care of it there. But that's only once a week, so there's not an increase in traffic from that. As far as excessive traffic for the RVs, when we looked at the standard size for an RV space, it fits within the 10-foot by 40-foot that we have indicated for the stalls within the space of the property that's being used for that. 35 would be a max number, but it would fit within that range in the property. Her concern regarding visual changes, there is nothing on the property that's going to be changing that would affect their farming land, in any way, shape or form. The, RV storage area would be on the opposite side of the property line from where they have their farming on the, south side. And it wouldn't, the RVs aren't gonna be tall enough to block any sort of, like beautiful scenery or anything like that.
Any questions? Maybe just one, so, maybe if you could just quickly reiterate what your timing for the gates and some of these things, what that timing looks like and what you would, you know, part of the process is we can make conditions as we need it, and what conditions would, you know, would you see being allow you to go forward, if that makes sense?
Well, the reason that it's still weeds right now is because I needed to get it approved first. I didn't wanna, level it and bring in gravel. For the expense if it didn't get approved for some reason. Like I say, there is a fence, like a barbed wire fence around the fresh pack side of the field. But they're just not one where the entrance is at the moment. It's just an open drive-through area.
As far as a timeline for getting a fence and cameras installed, once the property is cleared and rocks and gravel are brought in and things are leveled and appropriate for RV storage, then I would say as quickly as possible. So maybe within a 90 to 120 day.
So basically you can have it in play before you actually start operating?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Any other questions?
Yeah. So this is strictly an outdoor storage?
Yes. No cover.
Okay.
One thing I'll say is also like, you know, people that take their campers, you know, they're like in the winter, they sit most of the time. So it's mostly just the summertime thing where they come once in a while, pick it up, bring it back. It's not like an everyday travel.
And this would be year round? storage?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
People could park there year round.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. With that, we'll close public testimony portion of the hearing. Open up to the board for discussion.
If anybody else goes chasing the code, it's section 112-470, not 469.
Probably why. We're still training on one.
Yeah,
You did train up harder.
Yeah,
we did notice, by the way.
yeah, that's all right. I'm not sure if this model.
Okay, so this is a conforming use, is that correct? Well, and allowed use under a conditional. So. I have a question for staff. I know the criteria 2, section 112, it says 4690, but it's not. Talks about having a 6-foot side of steering fence. I can agree that probably not necessary in this case. But what teeth does the county have to enforce that later if needed? Like, can that be like an administrative adjustment to the CUP or?
Well, if you say that, add that. That is can be,
It can be.
as a condition. If not, then we end up bringing it back when the neighbors start to complain.
Exactly, and we've already shot that scene one time.
So in that findings of 2C, then it said the applicant has not proposed such a fence. But they've done so in front of us right now, correct? Saying that after 90 to 120 days after the gravel is imposed and they start saying that the fence is going to be installed, is that what I understand?
Well, not a visual, blockage fence.
A fence with the gates.
Fence with the gate, yes.
Yeah, the last one I was involved in, they put up a fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name it, but anyway.
Trevor, what was the appropriate code? You say -7?
470.
470.
Yeah, just scroll down one more. Four seventy is the one right out of 420.
Listening. You were just in her, it was probably, so, well, yeah, and I guess. This.
So if you look on the screen, 112,469 is trailer sales, rental and storage. I thought we trained our model, right?
You did. We'll talk about it.
Well, no, I think
I know on this one, whatever, I'm gonna say, fine.
Okay,
I'm gonna say on another one.
Did you get the one where the east and west was messed up?
No, I got the one where the numbers like totally don't match at all.
Oh.
It's the book, the packet versus the ordinance.
We're working.
I
60 days. Look at that was
60 days.
to get our model trained.
Actually. What, so.
Some discussion? I mean, I guess all I find in, it really, so to me, I won't say only, but, you know, compliance with the standard, which does have that 6-foot side obscuring fence. Which would be the question, however, yeah. Anyway, you know, really the justification presented is that there really is not a reason or need to obscure the use from the surrounding property based on the characteristics of the surrounding properties. And so, I mean, that's really the thing to consider if that's really truly the case in that point. The other issue originally I had was with the right of way issues. It sounds like those have been resolved, but we can actually, you know, add that as a condition to that any further issues with the rights of way are resolved as part of the, you know, as part of the application. And then, you know, with respect to the gating and even the cameras, it sounds like the applicant was amenable to us putting those as conditions prior to operation. So again, those are elements that we can handle as well. So it really, I think, comes down to that, you know, the section 112, 469E, 470 or whatever the case may be. 221, 220, whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
So talking about the fence, even though we're not dealing with a bunch of subdivisions and other things around, it still has an impact. There are neighbors there. And so my thought is, and I would just as soon see the fence be done before they start parking trailers. Well, the 6 foot side string fence doesn't cover much on a 12 foot tall camper. I guess it covers kind of the ugly underbelly, but maybe, you know, keeps tumbleweeds out of underneath them. Something.
I mean, another option too, as Milton suggested, is we can actually put it as condition for, I mean, we used to always add, you know, annual review. But we could actually add that on that review, we look at what the operation looks like, and if the operation is such that, yes, it really is justifiable, then we can add that at a future date as part of the review.
The 1 or 2 years down the road,
Yes.
give it your time,
Yep.
keep enough time to get set up.
Well, I think if they're gonna put a gate in, they just look their fence.
Requirement would only be to fence around the areas question,
Storage area.
just the storage area.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and it's security measures to protect storage trailers that's in there, you know, so. I would think that if you were storing something that's property, that she'd want to block that. Well, I think the fence provides, you know, at least that visual thing. I mean, yeah, you're gonna want, I know, protective, but.
Well, there's that door measure to. When people can come and go, I'm sure you. Have the gate set so that not just anybody could open it after those hours. But, you know, in past when we've had those, it's not a lot different than a storage unit. Make fencing. We don't have, I mean. You can have a gate, car control gate. Where,
Well, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to be cart controlled, you know,
Okay.
at the gate, you know, and so again, and I mean, I would reiterate that, you know, maybe if we make it as a, you know, maybe not prior to initial operation, but some period of time to allow this to see if it works, and then add it on at some point. You know, if that makes sense. I mean, again, considering that the reason why we do that, normally these things are, you know, in people's backyards, and so there's some element.
Yeah, and even though it's not a backyard today, there might be one tomorrow.
Right, and I mean, things change, right? You know, and it may be, you know, yeah, they're shielding from fresh packaging. I don't know, but.
So something that, yeah.
and down the road, and go through the interview.
Okay, I mean, again,
I think it's gonna be tougher to get a fence put in 2 years later after it's all full. You know, but whatever, unless you buy a condition. That within the time frame there is, so it is fenced. Get it to control the hours of operation.
yeah, I mean, I think that way you are requiring. Just you're giving them a little latitude.
Some latitude.
Right.
Good, and that's fine. One way or another. In the past, when we've got a constrained situations, that they are, have good things.
Yes.
So then if all previous applications in this matter have had to follow that rule, you guys have been fenced in and.
There's been conditions because there's problems.
Yeah.
You know, and in the particular instance, there was neighbors. And there was people going to get their trailer and pulling into the neighbor's yard, neighbors.
Sure.
But we have, I mean, we did that same thing, but we have given them, we've actually given them stage,
Yeah.
the ability to stage it, you know, as things change, so.
Switch between them.
No, we don't go big.
So the audience is seeing on the YouTube.
Yeah, well, you would think so.
No.
Well, you are.
There.
Yeah, like I said, go home, pop some popcorn.
And I am.
As soon as our YouTube channel starts making money, sorry. Finish your decision.
Money guy.
Yeah.
I was it.
Okay. Additional discussion, or we need to craft something, or?
No, if the residents want the speed limit sign, that's something they could go to Road Bridge for a petition. If they want a speed limit sign posted.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sign at the county's entrances, right, that says that it's not posted, it's 15 miles an hour.
Right, but what they're asking for is lower than 50 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Well, that's a whole different process, but.
Yeah.
It's nice to be reminded sometimes.
so
Ask,
yeah,
ask Gordon how that goes, even with the speed limit sign.
It doesn't-
If you go to that with trucks.
yeah, so you can talk to either the county engineer or the county public works.
I do sympathize with the neighbors and the extra traffic throwing rocks. When they're under road, the vehicles are passing and they seem to trouble up, I didn't think they should. That's kind of part of the on that road and farm trucks with their dualies throw bigger rocks too. Not that I'm unsympathetic towards it, but I don't know if you can control that.
Have a motion, thoughts, discussion?
Like for me, I'm just thinking about the fence.
Yeah. But I think we're on the right track, right? Within the year, we do allow our timeline to be adequate unless there's any other suggestion.
So what's the reason for the delay? Just
Well, I believe that the applicant has stated that they would like to get to a point financially and be able to afford it and then go forward. I mean, they might find that they don't have any desire for storage in this area. They might find that they, you know, don't have the money to do so. And so that's something I think. That's my only recommendation is rather than making it a condition right off the bat, just give them some time to do it. I know that sounds, we always quiver when we do that because of the chances to come back and actually inspect the property and see that it was done and then have that sort of authority to do something after it's not been done. I mean, that's definitely a road that, but at the same time, we're still gonna end up in that situation anyways. The applicant doesn't find the business successful, doesn't have an opportunity to do so. So I'm just trying to make sure that they have the opportunity to do it and not be constrained by it.
Do we have the criteria for the fence? Is it something that says what it has to be here? Can't be?
Just a 6 foot,
Okay.
on see-through.
Yeah, and we don't want to get into telling people what kind of fence they want to have. I'm just
No.
saying that. We've been there. We don't like
about
that.
that now. Yeah, because it requires a 6-foot site screen fence.
And you just leave it at that.
I understand the financial argument for sure. I sort of feel like it's either needed by the code or it's not needed by the code.
Right.
It's part of the cost of doing business is following the code. But right now, I can't see a reason for it necessarily. I agree with staff that it's out of farmland. We're not trying to keep wandering kids off, things like that. But I wouldn't want to say that they could be allowed to never have one, because there could be a time when it is needed. But following your train of thought is, they've been doing it 10 years, also fences required. It's harder to make them do it afterwards.
So I mean, I think you need to put if nothing else, a phased or even, some requirement to have it. It just, to say you don't have to have it all, I think it sets a, I don't want to say it necessarily sets a precedent if you can justify it, but I think it says, we're giving them the ability to phase into it.
So what do you think? If they're in business from 1 year or start of the operation,
I think that
if they're still in business, they need to have the fence.
I think these retail circumstances change.
I mean, you have to be careful with that, right? But what you can do is say, even say portions of the fence, across periods of time. I understand the caveats associated with that, but then it becomes an enforcement.
It's off.
Then Amber.
They make fire in the next door. That's the next door.
Mass evacuations.
Oh. Okay, we'll let that go then. I mean, again, I think you can put, give them the ability to phase approach it in. But at some point, whether you say 2 years, it needs to be done, and then you look at it. I mean, along those lines,
Yeah.
it doesn't drive you into having to have it done before you start, but it says after a period of time, and 2 years should be ample to decide, yeah, we're gonna do this or not. And then if you're gonna do it, then it needs to be right. If you're gonna do it, it needs to be done. If you're not, then it gives you that option to come back at it. That makes sense. And it's just a proposal. I mean, I'm just offering things up.
Yeah, makes sense. Don, will make the motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't we do it? Okay, we'll make the motion. I move to approve the conditional use permit file CP 26-0001 based on findings of facts and conclusions of law including staff report and testimony deliberation in this hearing. I'd like to emphasize the condition that powers of operation to be controlled by the gate lock, where it can lock and unlock itself at the appropriate hours, not subject to the owners. They still have to pay attention to it. And I would like to further condition waive the fee for that fence for 24 months. But after that 24 months required a fence as required by code.
What about the conditions of approval on Idaho? Does it also be added or?
Yep. Yeah, there's three on the back page.
Back there. Yeah, including all of 9, all staff's 9.
I would add to number 7 that the annual review will discuss the fence application.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded in this case, we do grant approval on this, and with the conditions as stated, you need them reread. Yeah. Or do you have them? Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the application with the conditions as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda. We have postponed item number 4, item number 5, AM 26-0001, chapter 112 zoning amending the land use table to add multifamily to C1, signs in all zones, manufacturing home parks in C2, food trucks in R1, private landfills and light or heavy industrial zones, and amend the standards for these uses, update the setback and density requirements in section 112-263 to amend the variable setback requirements and lot size minimum. Do I have a staff report?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. So we brought this last month and it was recommended to move forward. But because of the changes that we made and the opportunity to make a couple others, we thought we'd bring it back to make sure that the public got notice of some of the things that we talked about last month. So there's really not much changes to this. This is the things that we talked about last week. Except we took the opportunity to add a discussion and changes to the setback code. And so some of the suggestion was I'm going to go to the documents. This
All over the place.
So 263. So what we did here was we went through and changed and moved the suburban neighborhood zone down to the commercial area, but we also changed the moved some of the notes around, and then minimum property line setback shall be 1 foot of setback for each foot of wall height with a minimum setback of 10 feet. So setbacks measured from the property line to the nearest roof overhang, deck, or porch, whichever protrudes furthest. So we changed it from 14 feet, we changed it from, the highest gable end minus 4 feet, and changed it to the eave, the wall height, as talked about. So that was one of the changes we wanted to make. We renumbered that. We moved the suburban neighborhood down here to this closer to this commercial industrial, mostly because of the multifamily uses that are allowed in the suburban neighborhood. The suburban neighborhood clarified that with city or community water, the lot size may be reduced to 0.6 acres. Understanding that once the lot size gets down to 0.6 acres, the county road standards require a 70-foot right of way with a 42-foot road with curb and gutter. And so that's just for your information. That's in the road standards, but just make you aware of that. And then with city water and sewer, the lot size can be reduced to 1/4 acre, which is what the code had already said. And then lots or parcels within 300 feet of city sewer and water shall be required to connect. I anticipate that in the area of impact agreement, that's going to be changed to say that if the project is within a half a mile of city sewer, they'll have to produce a feasibility study on whether or not they should be able to connect to city sewer. And so that says this here, but it'll be a little bit more intense in the area of impact agreement.
So this sits inside, not the subdivision ordinance, but just the general zoning ordinance.
Yeah, chapter 112, yeah.
So would this assume then that when we say lots or parcels within 300 feet, that becomes a new new work, or if there's a parcel that resides within 300 feet, are they gonna be forced to connect? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, and so, that's a really good question. Yes, if they're gonna add it, if they're coming in for a building permit, we will ask them to,
Okay, but like, if it's a building permit for resident, what if they come in for a building permit for an accessory structure or something?
again, it would trigger a review of that.
Again, because I'm just
So,
asking,
no,
I'm
that's
just
fair.
asking because, you know,
Cause you're within, so you
because I'm
should be,
within, I'm within 1,000 feet of the city limits.
yeah. And so maybe we should change it to may be required.
Okay.
The 300 feet or the half mile?
Well, no, that'll be in that area.
Yeah, the half mile would be for a major
But they
development.
have to provide
Yeah,
weight, but so the 300 foot though, that's universal across all jurisdictions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, wherever, if you're 300 feet from a sewer line or a water
You
line,
have to hook up to it.
yeah.
You just said maybe.
Well, his
I'm
concern is,
not asking, I'm within 1,000 feet of the city limits right now, right? Does that mean if I look at a building permit for a shop building, I have to hook onto the city?
because that's what this.
Well,
this
you would have to
says.
provide. What was
Because
it?
he said, if I come into the county for a building permit, it's gonna start that review process. I'm like, I ain't hooking onto the city.
If it's a septic permit included in the building permit, then that would automatically fall into a different category, correct? So if you're in 1,000 feet,
If I'm building a new home, I can maybe see the argument there, but even then.
Well, so make your example fit the code, which is if your house is within 300 feet of city water, right? Then, you would be, and you were building a shop, right, on your property, but you already have a house and a well there. Would you be required to hook up? The way that reads makes you think.
Yeah,
makes
you
one
would,
think-
and that's the question I'm asking, because I think we need to clarify, because that should not be.
So should that say residential structures? Primary dwelling unit?
I'd even say it has to do, because it's my primary dwelling unit, I'm not gonna hook onto the city when I do something, right?
A new primary.
I mean, I know we always, sometimes it's just best, sometimes just for a look at some. I come over here, where last week, I mean. So if I were living on this parcel right here and I wanted to build a house, the city water line's right there, right? So I'm.
Right, you're building, I mean, I get that, you're building.
So that's what we're trying to address is.
I mean, and I think that's plausible, but the way it's worded
Yeah,
is, I mean, if you go a little bit further south, there's a home across the
Yeah.
street. They're putting a new home right on, just almost on the corner of 4100 and 300. Was he required to hook onto the city wire? Now, under this, if this is adopted, he would have been, right?
yeah, and we ran into that actually. We ran into that right up here. On one of these properties right here, because the city sewers across the street.
Right, zoom in a little bit, I know the one you're talking about. It's not shown on this, but it's right there. If you lower your cursor just a hair or down, right there. It's right on that parcel.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's not, it's, cause
It's further up. It's actually further up.
Yeah, where's,
It's north of 4100. It's right there.
4150, that's where I'm confused. So,
It's
yeah,
that corner, it's that corner right there.
yeah. Yeah, and so. And so when they went to get a septic permit, it was like, hey, so city sewers across 4100. So
Right.
you'll have to drill in a road and hook into city sewer and yeah, that,
They didn't make him do it.
they didn't make them do it.
Every time I've ran into that, they made us do it. Thousands of dollars to do it.
Well, and I think that's where I think you need to maybe massage that language to rather than may, rather than will, to a may, depending on the situation.
Well,
Because if I'm gonna have to lift it, get into the city system. Really, you're gonna make me do that? Now, from a purist perspective, you say, yeah, it's a good idea, right? But in that case, and you said, maybe the city ought to consider, doing something as well.
Yeah. I just know I've ran into this and it's been a huge headache and expense, but it's been a rule that's pretty much universal throughout the county to work in, so.
Okay.
And then you run into that, you just know you're gonna have to incur that cost. And so that's been frustrating for me, but at the same time, I can see it'd be nice to have some sort of an out. Just in case.
it will be. So let's wait by the city, something like that.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you want to give the city the right of last refusal on that bill?
Well, it's their system.
Yeah, but it's my land. I don't want to be in the city.
We can't make you do it.
I don't know.
Right. I mean, to me, it seems like it's
I mean, they're
almost,
the ones that
they're almost
waived it.
declaring an eminent domain on me because you're saying you have to, just because the city encroached on you.
Well,
now
no,
now
it's,
you have to count out of the city, and I don't think that's right either.
no, this is state law.
Yeah, it's something that's
This
universal.
is
to the Boys'
health
House.
department law, whatever, it's, so on that one
The
example.
same health department that lets me put water and sewer on a 6/10 of an acre lot. And I'll say that.
Yep. That's
Okay,
the same.
fair enough, fair enough.
So we can, on that one where they let that one go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they could have required it, but they were the ones that let that go. Right? The city was the ones who gave that up. It wasn't, we didn't have anything to do with it. Because it's their system. They're hooking into their
Yeah,
system.
it does like to say, let's wait by the city.
So, because either way, right now we're saying it's absolutely required unless it's waived by the city. So we're not,
So it's not a state mandate, and we can do this locally.
Okay, but then okay, but I think also. I think you need to have language in it that says it's. Something's gonna require a new. Septic system or something, because again, the way it's worded right now, if I come in for a building permit. On say a structure that doesn't even have plumbing on it, it says I may have to hook onto the city.
You'll not if that's yours, and if you're not, if you're having, and it's just a structure, you're not applying for a septic or
we
water.
water in their shops all the time. They put bathrooms in their garages, especially all the.
So then does that mean I'm gonna have to hook onto the city if I build a shop with a bathroom?
You're 1,000. No,
No, just 300.
no, he said he's 1,000.
Yeah, he's not taking first.
Yes, he is.
Oh, yes, I am.
Now, read the room.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to give him out
There's
there.
actually a portion of my property that is 300 feet from the city.
Well, there you have, then you all are. If a portion is, you all
Right.
are. Yeah.
It's looking out for all the other people in that same position.
Yep.
I like it.
Okay. So, and then the multifamily, we put the density in, of course, we talked about this last time too, the residential density for multifamily. At 20 dwelling units per net residential acre. That means that they can't count parking lots and roads in that net residential acre. It's only for exclusive.
Yeah.
So we go on. Good.
Sure. All right.
Has everybody been? And because that's where you want.
Multi-use.
You want multi, yeah, you want multi-use, right? You want to have the shops on the bottom floor, the apartment on the bottom.
And the school list, right?
Well, right.
I asked the question.
No, you're, I mean, it has to
see one. Not all commercials, right? Just didn't see one.
Steve, I'm out here where. I think it's in both. It's in both and it's also in the suburban. Yeah, it's in the suburban neighborhood and the commercial zones.
Just because everybody
You
else
know,
around it.
the minimum lot size, you have to have at least 2 acres or. So these 1 acre lots in the commercial zones couldn't have that. They'd have to have at least 2 acres.
But I mean, to Warren's question though. So then that means you're running the school buses through the commercial zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that we don't, but it is a valid question.
Again, it's hard to envision the future, but we've already started the future, right? Because we've got a preliminary plat in a commercial zone that has talked about putting multifamily in. And if they can work out sewer and water to that location, right? That's where it's heading. And so, we're just trying to prepare for that kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, you can say no. I'm just asking a question to know. Yeah.
Because this perhaps can address something that's coming down from the pipe, but when you look at the commercial zones that we have, you go to the north, you go to the south, it's like, you're really gonna put kids in there? Be, running through commercial zones like that on the days off of school? And, you're really gonna run buses in there? Are you gonna let it happen? Or at what point do we say that maybe this is a bit of a hazard to do stuff like that?
Well, again, I understand the concern. Ideally, when those commercial developments come forward, we will address those items, right? So it's not like, hopefully the main road doesn't go right by those places, right? Maybe they'll be set back a ways, so they have to pull into the parking lot. I mean, there are ways that this isn't an original idea. It goes on.
It is, but it's like, so, but as I read through this, you can allow up to 20 units. So you can basically go into the middle of the commercial zone and so the 20 unit apartment complex. And then it's gonna, when you look at what our commercials are right now, to the north and to the south, it's like, yeah, I go to the one out on the south, that's where the mechanic lives, that works on the car. And there's heavy traffic, with big traffic. I just wondered what is precipitating the need for this.
But exactly what I explained.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go everywhere. When you look up and down the street at the commercial zones, a lot of them are full. And then the ones that are not have challenges, right? And so, it's most likely that they either only have one entrance, one exit, or they're just not a whole lot of commercial development or areas for commercial development this time. It would have to be newly zoned properties that this would go on, or some of this. I mean, if we look at the map,
Is it gonna come down to conditional use permit, put the housing in there, or is it just gonna be a permit?
Well, it wouldn't be a conditional use.
there's a conditional use permit in the C1 and C2. It's administrative in the suburban. So yes, it would
Be a conditional.
be a condition.
So there would be discussion. It's
Well,
not,
yes,
it's
yeah,
not gonna just happen.
Yeah.
The
Well,
discussion
because-
before it's put in, right?
Because again, 20 units per acre with an administrative use permit, we'll still capture traffic studies and capture the ingress and egress with the access permits. But in the commercial zones, yes, we'll still have those requirements, but this committee will have the chance to review those.
So it's safe. If it doesn't.
Yeah,
If it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, that's the purpose of a conditional use.
Understand.
And I agree that it's not gonna happen everywhere, but, if I go back, look at some of this zoning. When you saw these commercial zones are, like I said, they're already broke up, there's not gonna be much there. Some of these, it won't work because of the way that they're laid out, right?
Right, but there is a giant one across the street on County Line Road that's that big. I just.
It's a plume right.
First one, up and, yeah, that's what I said, the preliminary is there,
Yeah, they have to go back for,
they never included anything.
no, they, yeah, how it will break up and how it will be used, yeah. We're still working through the traffic studies and the, all that stuff with ITV, so. Sure.
I'll give you a traffic study.
The double diamond plane.
But, you know, we're still seeing properties sell, some of these. You know, all these properties have either sold or are for sale. I mean, this whole section right here, right? All that stuff out there.
That's north of.
And then, yeah. And then this is all gone and who knows what's going to happen here and some things. I mean, there's just. Yeah, who knows? There's just lots of things going on. Always people talking and speculating. Okay. What else on that one? I think that would be it.
Any questions for staff? And we got it.
Yes.
Did you grab me the signature?
Yes.
For this one?
Yeah, but the private landfill stuff we already talked about and everything.
Oh, sweet, it's good.
All right.
So on these property line setbacks,
Yeah,
what is the required setback in substance subdivision?
I would say that, no. Did I delete something? Is that what you're saying?
Because I called Janet this last week and we were helping some people buy this property and right here, we were wondering what the setback was.
For lots less than an acre, it can be reduced to 5 feet.
So what's the difference? Why 5 versus 10?
Why does it do it?
Or, well, I mean, that 0.3 acre parcel you looked at earlier, that was a good example, right?
Right, but I guess just because the next property is a larger property, why a larger setback?
For a larger property?
Yeah. Why wouldn't it just be standardized? If setback's 5 feet or 10 feet or.
Well, with an acre lot, you have more ability to check for light on air and like that.
Well, so I guess that's an assumption. So let's say you have an acre, so you have 2 acres. But on your 2 acres, instead of building a storage shed out back, you're wanting to build a 100 by 200 shop. I guess, what's the difference? So the person with the larger acreage is utilizing his ground with larger buildings.
It's the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, the opportunity to do so, so.
The larger lot.
Why the setback difference? Why are you taking 5 feet away from the larger lot, reducing their ability to?
The larger lot is 10 and the
Because
smaller
the
lot is 5.
the larger lots have more, use allowance, right? So I can have animals on a 1 acre parcel or a 2 acre or 5 acre. it's hard for me to have animals on a 3 acre, right? Because the code doesn't allow it. And so then all of a sudden I'm having to deal with the neighbor's chicken feathers because they're right on my property. So I'm saying, so they have the opportunity to have more uses. So let's move that stuff more into the middle of their property to give me some more buffer, right? Yeah. And their big old shed might block my sun. I can't lay out and get a suntan. So.
It's gonna be a big old Sunday.
Unless they use reflective material, and then it will actually benefit.
Yes, right. I've heard that somewhere.
Right, right.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Everybody wipe that label out of your head.
Please. That's a good question. That's a good question. Good discussion.
Other questions? If not, we'll open it up for public testimony. Steve, Dringan, you want to come jump in?
Steve, do you get my emails?
My text, do you get any of that stuff?
Sorry, I'll talk to you later. We need to talk.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing anything.
Oh my. That's,
I ignore it too.
yeah,
And I reported your number as a telemarketer.
Right.
Efficient
Every time. Okay, so it's Steve Stringham, address 3747 East 38 North. I first want to talk about that I'm really upset about the Highway 20 county line traffic. Okay, you guys do that every meeting. And yes, it's 221. So on this,
All that does is take you, by the way.
I take it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I mean, gotta know the good shows. So on this one, I did appreciate the subsection D, where you're basically kind of motivating the developers to kind of pursue the city water and septic. You know, because I know like in past conversations that I've been in, that's always come up. And I know past things I've always kind of been wanting that. So I like that it's not just simply like trying to make it a requirement, but you're actually kind of giving them some motivation. The quarter acre, I don't know how to do something commercially on it, but hey, that's not my issue. That's the developers. I did want to talk a little bit about the multifamily. And I guess it was somewhat more of a consistency in some of the different documents, from the agenda to the staff minutes to the proposed changes and stuff like that. So like currently the multifamily is listed for suburban, and then and in some of the documents it's referring to the multifamily for C1 And C2.
And some places it's saying C2, but not every place.
Conditional use permit.
Well, both of them are conditional use from what I've seen. I was just saying there's not everything is consistent saying C1, C2 for, well, at least what I saw.
C1 and C2 are both on condition, right? And then suburban is administrative, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they see, yeah, for both of those.
Yeah, and that's really obvious in the land use table. But I don't know what some of the other things, maybe it was the agenda that was throwing me off, because it was just C1 with many on the agenda. I just remember going through it going, hey, these things don't
I
line
think
up.
that's why we're.
Oh, yeah, I think it was just,
Well, I'm sure it's clarified.
yeah, because I don't know if there's some requirements that everything lines up before you can motion it. Let's see, so I was on the multifamily.
Oh. Yeah, it was a manufactured home parks that were supposed to be. The C2, that's what we noticed. He's right.
You know what, I might make a motion to maybe suspend our rules a little bit to allow open discourse with Steve on this, if the board's okay with that. I'd make the motion, somebody seconded. Been moved and seconded to suspend our rules with respect to public testimony to allow public discussion in the testimony. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. So now
we can do our legal line.
be a little bit more open with information, if that's okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't on the agenda, but so the plan is C1, C2 for multifamily?
No, just see.
Just C1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, because yeah, but equally on, so on your land use table, it has the vote.
We changed. I just,
Okay.
Okay, it's gone.
Miraculously. I'm just, I got my neck back for it. It does, as far as on the language, it is referring to it as suburban and commercial zones. So you may want to limit it to just C1.
No, it is in suburban. So.
Yes, but it says, commercial zones instead of specifically C1, because if you're not doing the,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And thank you, by the way, for pointing out these errors of this.
well,
Yeah, we'll do it.
well, to be honest, I mean, will be a web, there's no pizza for you.
Yeah. They tell you there's no pizza for video.
Yeah, get, so, you know, advertising that YouTube channel.
There's,
Afford it.
right?
Well, I mean, there's so much that's involved. I mean, yeah, like one doc, you know. So I mean, I do appreciate staff, what we call staff notes or whatever, because it does explain stuff. The, on the multifamily, can't remember what someone was mentioning as far as multifamily and how it's currently in suburban, but potentially some problems with it being in commercial and other things like that. From my perspective, I guess I'm kind of on the same page. Is, you know, is there a need? Is there a demand? You know, what's the reasoning for pushing multifamily in to commercial? I did see in the staff notes or something along the lines. I had said we're making this change because to get it to line up with multifamily being commercial on the land use table. But when I was looking there, I was like, it's not on the original. So the one that hasn't been modified, it's not on there. So, but the wording on the statute, I don't know the right term, you know, the big monster where it has all the different sections and stuff. One of the lines was saying something about lots of different residential for like a C1, and I think there was something that said duplexes and maybe apartments. So I'm guessing that maybe where
For the multifamily.
it didn't specifically say multifamily, but I
So the clarification is between the residential, maybe it didn't specifically say exactly what sort of.
yeah, so I've heard, so yeah, so but, you know, the county line came up and I had met with them after that went through, and they are talking about doing multifamily, you know, and stuff like that, you know, and I'm right up against it, so I'm like, I don't want multifamily. My wife's like, oh no, we're moving, we've got, you know, apartments right by it, but, you know, and then I was reading this going, well, when I was in the meeting here with you guys, it was like, I looked at all that, I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about it, because multifamily isn't on the grid for the land use, so I don't have to come up here and argue about the multifamily. And so, but I think, you know, and I agree with the statement in the staff report was more or less a lot of these changes are to make sure, you know, get everything's lined up because some things weren't consistent. But I wasn't sure if we're at, you know, maybe we're going consistent in the wrong direction, you know, by getting multifamily. And I don't know, and currently, are there a lot of places that are commercial doing it?
There's tons. Yeah, I don't know if Bill wants to speak more than I will, but most of the successful that I see as far as commercial and residential mixed in together with the apartments on top and stores on the bottom, and then food and you know, the multi-use of the areas are really successful. And so the concerns about like the buses and the school children and stuff like that, I definitely understand that to a certain extent, except for, you know, it goes back to the school district to decide, okay, we cannot have the kids picked up here, they must be picked up here because of these sort of, restrictions. So, in my personal opinion, when I look at those areas, because I'm just kind of like you to a certain extent as far as like, no, wait a minute, this multi-use thing shouldn't be,
have residential in this area, but when you see how it really works, it comes together in areas that have been successful. For me, it works, but I listened to Milton talk about it as far as the amount of these developments that are going in that offer apartments. I mean, look at downtown Rigby, for instance, right? All the stuff above those are apartments, right? And their shops underneath. That's the way it's always been when, you know, growing up and stuff. So anyway, in fact, I know there's still apartments above all of that. So, and that's exactly what we're talking about. It's just that combination of the two.
Well, I guess for me, as far as like the multi-use by that definition, or the multi-use versus multi-family, where you're saying, hey, lower level commercial, and above that is multi-family. Yeah, I think in a commercial environment, that makes sense. I mean, you got that in Rexburg, you know, you had that like Salt Lake and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, it's tons of areas for sure. And as long as it's done correctly, it does work.
I guess my bigger concern is the high density with the, like apartments that are packed in there, kind of an aspect. Because in a commercial environment, you want like, you know, big chunk of land that's just kids running around that someone drives through and follows them over.
Right.
But yeah. So, and I don't know if that has any bearing on these changes.
So are like all the apartment complexes, all the big ones that go in Idaho Falls, are they in a commercial zone, or do they parcel it down small enough?
Well, they would have to be in a commercial zone because of the.
I don't know how much mixed use they have in Idaho Falls, do they?
I mean, I'm thinking there's those big, they built the big ones as you come in on St. Leon Road and right where you cross the old Yellowstone Highway. There's huge in there, but I mean, you got commercial all around them. And that would be just a high density housing in a commercial as opposed to a mixed use type facility.
Rather than,
right,
you know,
which I think plays to what was being asked.
Yeah, that's the question is, do we want to be Idaho Falls?
Well, so the challenge.
I don't want to get city limits, you know, some of us are close, you know, 300 feet.
Doesn't it say it's restricted to 20 units per acre?
It is.
So that's not very high density.
Yeah, net density.
Yeah.
Net residential acre.
That meaning not including streets, so that's.
Streets are quarter.
That's not very dense.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not like a sky.
Yeah.
Well, and so what's causing all of this is the fact that the city has basically given will serve letters outside of the city that is putting the pressure on these codes. And that's what we're dealing with is the fact that all of a sudden now we have city services out in these county zones. And so that creates a demand and all that other. So we're trying to deal with it, but we're definitely not creating something that's not done in other places.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do it smart. So.
Well, I think, and I appreciate that. This hasn't always been.
It is. It's a challenge for sure, and it's not an overnight thing. That's the other thing that's challenging about this is, we approve a plat, and you may not see the end result of that for years and years.
Well, that was the.
I mean, like Red Fox, right? It was done 15 years ago. We're just barely starting to talk about roads and water lines.
I didn't like it when they did it 15 years ago. There you go. I tried.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So the other thing I was gonna mention on the, the multifamily was it's called the comprehensive plan. It does talk about policy 15-5. Whatever it was. Really organized. It was talking about the push to have the multifamily within the area that impacted and closer to those areas. And I don't know if there's a way within, that's in the comprehensive plan, if we put that into the language here, or do we say something in there saying, hey, we need to do this ordinance with this comprehensive plan?
Well, and so, and that's a great question, and that. Note that we're talking about a code that we're amending here, and we're making it a conditional use permit. And one of the requirements of the conditional use permit, both in the county ordinance and in state law, is that it has to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. And so we formed a committee, which you are on. Called the Greater Rigby Area. I know, you checked your email. Yeah, and so.
Man, this Slack hasn't come to a single meeting.
So if you get with Vern after, and it'll get you set up, okay, make sure we have the right email address. Anyhow, we're working on that plan now, right? And so pretty soon, that Greater Rigby area will be the Rigby area of impact. And so, yeah, okay.
I do it in the area of impact.
All right, so yeah, that's ultimately is what we're looking at.
He knows it's coming.
It's got 300.
Medication. It's just. Sorry, but then.
Okay, so, yeah.
I was going to mention the private landfills. Maybe this is just me. When I'm thinking about private landfills, you know, there was a lot in there on some of that, and I'm like really trying to digest it, but it doesn't look like, you know, there's necessarily garbage. It's more kind of like the commercial waste, kind of the
Yeah, we have one private landfill.
Yeah.
And they want.
Yeah, they're not gonna let me have one.
Yeah.
Next to the Rigby City limits.
They're not gonna let you have.
Probably just approve them. So I was thinking, okay, it's not quite as bad, but my concern would be the light industrial versus the heavy industrial. So I went and looked at the zoning map, and it seems like I didn't zoom all the way out, but it seems like a lot of the light industrial locations butted up against residential. And so I guess request would be to potentially have the private landfill be heavy industrial versus the light industrial, because for me, for example, I'm just off the county line on Highway 20, you know, and that they put in that Palisade, that's light industrial. So that's about what, 2,000 feet from me, you know, so according to this, they'd be able to put in a private landfill.
Well, I mean, but it's still done with it, it's still conditional.
It's in the code as administrative, but.
Yeah,
But
it's still
You
conditional.
don't have to pay off the whole commission, you just have to pay off the.
No, and DEQ. So DEQ is ultimately the permitting agency. So most of the stuff in that code came from DEQ regulations.
So yeah, that was, I guess, my concern. I don't know, you know, I guess, for me, I'd like to see it be heavy industrial, but, you know, I just have to continue.
Okay, so again, we're trying to address an existing use that wants to expand, and his entire
industrial.
is currently light industrial, and all his surrounding property is, and it's out on Besson Road. So. So you're right, we wouldn't put it.
Yeah.
Right.
We wouldn't allow someone to put it in there.
Yeah.
It's really the right answer.
Yeah.
And I think we've got enough provisions to prevent that. I mean,
on the food trucks, I totally didn't realize food trucks was even on the land use table. But so we're adding R1, but I'm assuming whatever logic it's driving to put it into R1, and like everything else has it, why is it not going into R5?
I can't have a food truck in my house either.
I'm kind of going like that. I wouldn't want, and I don't know what restrictions are, but like, I don't want someone parking outside of the house with a food truck. But it's like, hey, how come I'm not cool like this? Because I'm not in an R5.
Let's see,
What's in them?
yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah. It's like everything else.
But I guess the challenge with it is we see it out there already. Out in the R5 zone, we have other things that would fit under, like agriculture, trade, marketing, right? I mean, we had a bagel shop that brewed the wheat and ground the wheat and made bagels, and so it fit under those things, right? We have other uses. The food truck, I mean, we have them right now. They're bouncing around these R1 zones all over the place. You see it on Facebook. I'll be over in this area tonight. way over in that area tonight. And so, I'm just trying to keep myself from having to go around following people around and write violation notices.
What about the ice cream truck? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, you know, according to what I read, ice cream trucks, if you get in trouble, can't have music. Where'd you read that? What's going on here? Are you serious? They can't have bright lights, you know?
I'm not gonna know they're coming down the road, just
I know,
insane.
they're gonna flash on by. No ice cream bars.
The happiest I ever get in the day when I hear that sentence.
But maybe a question though, but are there licensing requirements associated with that food truck?
Yeah, that's
Drive,
administrative.
that drive back in, right?
Yeah, it's administrative.
So in keeping with that, then would it make sense just to make it across the board?
Right.
Right,
Let it go everywhere.
because it does, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we did have one in the subdivision last summer that we sent them, the neighbors complained, we sent them a violation notice, they went away. They moved it. It's a food truck. They moved it.
right.
So,
And that would still be possible, because I think I was reading that for the food truck, they have put administrative,
yeah, it's
they
administrative.
have to say where, and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, for the food department. You know, so they could come in any subdivision and park in a cul-de-sac and just start selling.
No, it's not allowed in subdivisions, it's just the R one, so not the R one. Yeah,
So is it something where they can move around?
they do.
Well, I mean, as far as they're legally, or they're okay to do that?
So we don't issue business licenses, right? Yeah, we issue just administrative use. So,
Yeah, I hate to have someone just, maybe, I don't know, maybe the stall would be nice, but park in front of my house.
yes,
I mean, your restaurant.
if they park in front of your house, you can call somebody. And they'll shoo them away.
What would be, what if it's parked, I guess if they're parked in the road.
Right away, right?
Yeah.
Right away.
So, and they need to be on private property.
Okay,
Right? I mean, that's where they park now. They don't park.
Yeah.
maybe that's the thing, yeah, it would, yeah. Because then if they were on private property, then it becomes a trespassing issue as opposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just might have something there. parked on the
Right,
road,
right.
like,
Yeah, no, they're not parked. They have some food trucks parked on the road, dude. We're smart. Well, you're right.
I think that's what I have for now. Thanks for letting.
Thanks for reading.
Oh, yeah.
You bet, I'm gonna make a motion then to take the rules back up again.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to reinstate the rules, all in favor? Motion carries, thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak. Does anybody else wish to speak on this matter?
Just say that, if you looked at that, and kind of decided where you want me to go.
You know what? Would you please come up and just, I know, you'll be on the record.
Just,
We like you.
I don't know, just from listening in the back. I was curious. I have to say, go down on that. Okay, I'm Katie Benyon, I live at 3787 East North. I was just gonna say, like, just from stuff that I'm listening at, and planning ahead and such with planning and zoning as far as our community, Milt's right, our community is growing. But how much do you let, like, the developers and the friends dictate what you're gonna do in your own county? And some of what I'm hearing is, well, this is what's already happening, so we're just gonna go with this. And maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but I feel like, you need to decide what you're going to do and work from that vantage rather than having that dictated to you by people that are building or by businesses that want to come in and say, well, we'd really like to do this. Well, we've already decided we are not going to do this for this reason. Anyway, that was all I was gonna say.
Okay, thank
Like
you.
it just. Anyway.
No, and I mean, it's a very good question because again, you know, our first initial is P, right? As opposed to C. And so, no, it's good input because that's what we try, that's really is what we try to do. So, okay, what is acceptable? And then also what do we need to be doing though to help, again, plan and knowing that things are coming, how can we plan to, you know, to deal with those things as well? So, no, it's very appropriate
Are
comment.
we thinking in terms of like, how do we mitigate this as far as like the impact on people that already live there? Like, I know for us, we bought our house like 25 years, around 23 years ago, you know, when none of this was on the horizon at all. You know, and so how do you mitigate that for people that already live there and not make it really awful by putting all this extra stuff next to it?
And that is part of the process we go through. And the difficult thing is it's difficult not to impact people, you know, because you've heard me mouthing off about everything about it. Yeah, when I grew up here, right, I got to do what I wanted, and now these guys won't let me. I can't have landfill in the backyard.
Burn your trash.
I can't burn my trash. Right, but no, I mean, and that's really what we do try to do it. Part of that process is even in our comprehensive planning where we say, okay, what areas, you know, what can we allow or what do we want to promote in these areas? And our desire, obviously, is when we want to push a lot of these things in closer to the municipalities, but sometimes that's difficult as well. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Not having anyone else signed up to speak or anyone wishing else to speak, I'll go ahead and close the matter on. You know, this one is AM 26-0001. Open it up for discussion by the board or motion to move forward. So there's a motion to accept. It's a motion, but we would be making a motion to recommend approval with the changes as noted to the board of commissioners.
Staff, give us something to review.
Sorry, I had to take that. Whatever. That was good stuff. I know.
I was slipping.
Just slide.
Yeah.
It's a red line draft for May 2026 or
With the changes as noted.
So page 12 of the staff report does have recommended language.
Up on, oh, it's not on the screen.
I got your back, staff.
All this new technology.
Yeah, it's staffers, the AI.
Or memorize.
Now you're really big, so.
It will become more and more
I make a motion to move the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of file AM 26-001, amending chapter 1112 of the Jefferson County Code to adopt amendments to section 1112-263, density and dimensional requirements, section 1112-376 for multifamily dwellings, section 1112-514 for landfill private, and to update the land use table at section 112-605 based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law set forth in the staff report. And to forward a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners. With no changes. Well, no, we didn't have a choice.
With the changes as noted. I mean, we made some corrections, so.
Changes as noted.
mostly typos.
Mainly type marks.
All right, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of file number AM 26-0001 as redlined with changes as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Have 3 ayes, 1 nay. Any you wish to add? Okay.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is file AM 26-002, chapter 110 subdivisions, amending article 3, plats, updated procedures, reviews, and approval of the various processes in this section. Amending article 6, design standards to match the newly adopted road standards ordinance. Staff report.
Okay, so again, we went through all of these last month and recommended them, and as I was with changes, and so I went ahead and made those changes and renoticed it and took opportunity to add the short plat. And I think that section 110, 92, and 93 to 97. Basically, what we added in those sections was very minimal. So in the short plat, because we added in the final plat section that we would bring the final plat to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review, we chose to add that to the short plat as well. So you can see the developments that are coming to the county. And so it's not, we're bringing it to you similar to the final plat, just to make sure that it conforms with the approved applications and conditions of approval, and then after you have a chance to review that, we will take it to the board for their approval. But I'm just starting to feel like if as many subdivisions as we're doing, you're not really seeing what's coming. Because the short plat, a 9-lot split, you just don't see it at all. And so we thought we'd start bringing those to you. So that's what we added to the short plat.
So is it, but it's not an approval.
It's not an approval.
It's just a review. But that's done as a public hearing?
No, it's not done as a public hearing.
Okay.
It's done as a
board.
Yeah, it's done as an agenda item.
As an agenda item, but with no
no
legislative action.
Yeah. And it's a little tricky because we're asking the applicant to wait a little longer to let us do that, but boy, we sure go kind of through this anyway with them. So,
okay. So it's just an open discussion. They come and present what they got.
Or we'll just bring the application. Yeah, we'll invite them to come, but yeah. So you can ask them questions.
So then you basically present it then.
Yeah, because it's an administrative review.
Okay.
So basically we're doing the preliminary plat review and we're bringing you the final plat. Okay. Similar to the way the final plat code's written. And then the other one that we amended was,
and that's because that before the board of commissioners.
Yes, that's before they were here.
There's no input to it from the county commission.
That's correct. Yep.
So any development agreements or anything like that?
If there are on a short plat, yes.
But normally there wouldn't be.
Yeah, normally there wouldn't be.
Okay.
Maybe. So it depends.
Fair enough.
And then with the other one, we added the new water laws to the subdivision plat. Basically, it's just right out of statute that if you have 5 or more lots, you have to provide irrigation. And then the last one was, again, you're probably not aware, county adopted the new road and bridge ordinance. And so so this basically refers to the road standards for subdivisions. Then it also talks about the traffic study. Shall undergo a tier transportation review to evaluate potential impacts on county roadway system, may include a trip generation, distribution letter, a full traffic impact study as determined by road and bridge. And then, studies have to be done by a licensed engineer to comply with the requirements So when they adopted the road standards, they also adopted, a standard for doing traffic studies. And so it's not just, out there, which one do we follow? So there's now a standard for it. So we added that, wanted that in there as quick as I could get it. So that's why we set this stuff aside, brought it all back this time, was to have those things. The other stuff, like I said, we talked about last month and the changes that we made are in there, so.
Any questions, staff? Somebody signed up for, neutral, or against? Anybody wish to offer testimony? Okay. We'll close the public hearing portion of this matter. Discussion from the board.
So the only thing that we changed from last month that we talked was just adding it to the short plan, right?
The short plat and then the stuff I showed you
For
for
the
longer.
longer, right?
Okay, and then the road is still, that's just specific to two subdivisions, correct? The road.
Yeah, everything else we talked about last time.
Yeah. Just listen to. Right. Really good job. Replacement by AI.
For a little while.
It's coming.
For a while. I got bored. It's so bored. AI.
No, not the board. No,
Yeah.
I'll explain that. Let's get through this and then I'll explain that.
Correct.
See that little screen up there? That's live, man. Any questions?
Ward. Any questions? Concerns? Okay.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I move that the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of file AM 26 0002, amending chapter 110 of the Jefferson County Code to revise section 110-62, the short plat, section 110-65, preliminary plat, section 110-66, final plat, section 110-68, plat amendment, section 110-69, lot line adjustments and minor notational changes, section 110-70, boundary line adjustments, section 110-92, community well and septic requirements, and section 110-93 through -97, streets, alleys, and easements, based on the findings of fact and conclusions of the law set forth in the staff report, and to forward a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we make a recommendation to the County Board of Commissioners for approval on file of AM 26-0002, red line copy as presented and discussed. There were no changes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, file AM 26-0003, Jefferson County is requesting a consideration slash approval for updating Article 3, Division 3 variances, Section 112-96. S. Okay. That's sec, still bad. Secretary, that's what it was. To include an administrative variance process and update the regular variance process to more align with state statutes. Staff report.
You know, this is a really good idea. And then I asked the legal question. So our 1.5 page variance ordinance turned into 9-page variance ordinance.
Warren will like that.
Because I asked for. So they did like the idea of the administrative divisional adjustment. They liked that idea. Didn't want to call it administrative variance, but it is in statute and it complies with statute. Statute basically says that a variance can be granted by simply allowing the neighbors to have an opportunity to comment. And so it doesn't necessarily require a public hearing. So the administrative variance allows for staff to send notice to the neighbors, 1,000 feet around the property, wait for comment to come in. After that time passes, review the decision, approve or deny, approve with conditions, and then send notice back out to the neighbors and give them 10 or 14 days, I can't recall off the top of my head, the opportunity to comment on that application or on that approval and file an appeal. Oh, this actually
13 days. Oh, sorry.
Would they have to file?
And then 28. Yeah, 28 days.
Would they have to appeal it though?
Yes, if they didn't like the decision, they would have to.
Oh, if they didn't like the decision.
Yeah.
But on the input to say, no, I don't want them to do this, or I don't think they should do this. And does it have to be unanimous?
No, it doesn't.
Then where does it come into play then if there's a dissent, if there's a dissenting vote, then does it go to hearing or something?
So again, it comes down to whether or not those comments can be mitigated or not, right? If they're, you know, like on this particular one, right?
And then in this case, it's administratively determined if those concerns can be mitigated.
Yeah.
And then hence the appeal. So if if the administrator says, yes, I believe that they are able to mitigate those concerns, then the people say, whoa, no. Is there a cost associated with approval?
Yes, because it requires a public hearing at the end. So here's the deal.
Okay.
And now I get it. I'm different than most. I've done many of these, maybe 100. And being able to look at that application, if I cannot look at that application and know it's going to be controversial, then once I start getting neighbor comments, then I will know shortly if it's going to be controversial. So then at that point, we can make a decision to send it to the P&Z Commission for a public hearing. Okay.
So basically it's a push, and if it's a pushback, then it's a paralysis.
Yeah.
No, but I'm thinking in terms of it goes through the process and there's a neighbor that says, no, I don't like it.
That's a pushback.
Yeah, but if it's like one.
Yeah, like I said,
and you believe that they mitigated it.
Yeah,
but then if they still say, no, I don't think so,
then they can still appeal.
They would appeal, but there's a cost associated with appeal.
Mm-hmm. Just like there is with any.
Is that?
Just like they are with yours.
True, but if it comes to a hearing and then they get up and they make, a compelling argument, without, having gone through the process, it doesn't cost them anything to make the compelling argument, I guess. I guess you're right, though. If we still rule, then they want to appeal it.
Yeah.
I guess, okay.
Yeah. And so along that line, we did we did recommend that it be 40% of any eligible setback for lot coverage, lot width, depth, height, parking, bulk replacement, affecting size of structure, placement on a structure upon a lot. But then for lot size minimum, we changed it to 25%.
So they allowed the deviation at the 25%. To do this, right? And we talked about this last time. Did you bring it up last month when we were?
Yeah, if they want to say they have a 9-acre parcel in a 5-acre zone and they want to.
They're allowed 25% without having to go through the process, as long as the mitigation.
Yeah, well, they have to go through the administrative process instead of the full blown public hearing process.
So anybody that wants a variance, they don't have to come in directly, but just like you mentioned the other day, when there was somebody that was close. And they could have done something like this, if they just went down to a 25% and then sent the letters out and then go. Right. Push back. That, right.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, since, we've already ruled on it, the example from earlier this evening. That one would still have to come for a hearing because it's not within the 25%,
Or
right?
40% of the setback.
Yeah, whatever. So in that case, that's still gonna come forward. But to me, that's one of those that I would say you could have looked at and said, yeah, you know what?
Well,
Right. So I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, because it was the second time around, right?
Right.
I don't know that I'd have been comfortable making it the first time around. But
Okay. Well, with this one, it would still come before us.
It comes forward,
Yeah.
but the argument's gonna come down to, was it not subject to them?
No, I'm close.
Yeah, I voted against it last time.
And it's like, we bought it, it's a good lot. Then he wanted to put a house in the garage, shop, barn, the shit. Which,
Well, see, the issue there is they put shed in first.
the argument's
Self-imposed, and I don't know if they want to get past that, right? So let me ask staff this. What are the caveats?
For this?
Yeah. And let me be more specific.
We don't issue.
What's the caveat for us as a board for this? Is there anything?
So number one, we don't issue that many variances every year.
Right.
Right. I mean, I've been in places where, 10% of your building permits, you can usually expect to have variances on 10% of your building permits. So 10% for us would be like 60. So, yeah.
15, 60.
Yeah, and we have 1%, 6, usually.
Okay.
And so,
as I look at it, I don't see
because we don't have the topography, right? We don't have the hills and the mountains and the, all that. We have the canals, which we've kind of built in stuff for the canals, right? If it's non-habitable structure, they can get a request they can get permission from the canal company to build inside that setback. So we've kind of addressed most of them. This just comes down to, if you want to avoid the public hearing, then
Is your option?
yeah. Back it up.
Okay.
It doesn't delay it. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. It's not going to include anything.
No, it's still gonna take a month and a half or so, but it won't take you 3.
Yeah. Okay. Any other? Yeah, go ahead.
So the setback, minimum setback for no administrative conventional adjustment shall reduce. So only the administrative can't go less than 10 feet back on the setback. Before it comes to us, it's that 100 feet. Yeah, never mind.
Got it? Right. So yeah, if they're gonna go below 10 feet, they're coming to you.
Okay, and that's just built into the percentage, right?
But at what point are you gonna say, you know what? They bring that map there and there's 82 sheds. 82 possible sheds to get tagged.
That what it was, 82. I should have counted.
Yeah. No, there's 82. Within, what, 100 feet of that. So, are you gonna go around and tag all in?
No,
You just bringing it to our attention.
no, we didn't do that, they did.
I don't know, but
And that's really good information. I did have that happen once. I mean, the folks went up and down the street and turned in violation notices, and we sent out letters. And again, that was the summer of variances.
right.
So it was not good.
Yeah.
The neighbors went up and down the street, filed a complaint because they had to get a variance. So filed a complaint. Everybody, they were out there taping. So, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Anything on the, anybody sign up? If no one signed up to speak in favor, neutral, against, Steve Stringham.
That's right.
Well, we did that.
You finally touched.
This one was less important to me than the other.
Oh,
It was very, yeah,
yeah,
I was
thank you.
skimming,
Yeah, that's
so
all
I
right.
didn't find typos.
Oh,
Okay, Steve String, 3747 East 38.
It's the 310 acre.
Okay. Well, I guess something was kind of mentioned here that one of the thoughts I had on this was, sounds like there were only like, this happens 6 times a year. So it's kind of like, it's not broken, why we fix it. But, and part of that for me is, at least for me, as far as with the commission on benefits I see there, is you have multiple people with different backgrounds, multiple perspectives, and, you know, like going through that process, instead of having like one, guessing it's one person, who makes that decision, you have multiple different people. And I've seen some of these, including like, for example, today, you know, there was a discussion about the variance and how it's going to happen. From my understanding, like if we look at the one from today, it was a 5-foot setback. If we were going by the original definition, a 10% deduction for the administrative would be, you know, half a foot. Well, if we make a change to this, the original change to 3.5 feet would have never hit the commission. It would have been administrative. Yes, when they came back the second time, obviously that would have hurt the commission. But, you know, when you're talking 5 feet, that percentage really can make a difference. And so, and I guess my question on some of that is, why 25, why 40%, why is it 30%, 20%? I guess, what's the logic behind the numbers? And at least in my mind, I think there's value to the commission being involved and having that, those additional eyes. And I think the staff, you know, what I've seen on some of this does a great job as far as coming in, representing, you know, both the party's interest, but also, you know, the county's interest. And instead of necessarily making the decision, putting it in front of you guys, get multiple people, and, you know, not everybody always agrees, but it's going through that process. And I think the process is very, very important. And I, you know, at the same time, it's like, not necessarily, hey, you guys need to do a bunch of busy work. Because, you know, maybe some of them are really, really simple. But, you know, and so I guess for me, it's kind of like, where do we draw that line? But I can, for me, there's a lot of value in what you guys are providing. One thing I thought that in this caused concern for me was also, you know, so like when there's a change, you know, like for example, what was it, Ricky 191 I'm close to it, so I get, I get the letter because I'm within 1,000 feet. But like some of these other things, I may not be, but because it's going in front of the commission, it's showing up on the agenda. Like I wouldn't notice about some of these things today. But because it was on the agenda, being addressed by the commission, I have the ability to participate. Whereas if it was just administrative, I wouldn't have that opportunity. If I was close, but it's kind of like equally that 1,000 feet, obviously you don't want to notify every, send letters to every citizen, trying to find that balance. If there's not that going in front of the commission, in my mind, it's kind of like that 1,000 feet, you may still be impacted if you're outside of that and you would never have an idea. But, maybe that's in that 10%, that currently is there. Maybe that's going on and there's not a problem. But I guess that for me is it broken? And if it's broken, we can maybe look at it. But it's maybe there's a possibility of going, okay, it's working, but we want to make it a little better. Maybe not jump to 40%, maybe it's 20% or something like that. And then it's something like, hey, 20% is working great, and then jump it up. I would just hate to see it be we take it too far and there's
No chance for discussion. No chance for
Yeah.
discussion.
and then it's kind of like too late. Because you may not even, that opportunity to appeal, you may not even know about it. So you would never be able to appeal because you're outside of that 1,000 feet. So I guess that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. I have no one else signed up to speak in favor, neutral, or against. Want to rebuttal?
Well, so so let's just. So the state statute says that, prior to granting a variance, notice and an opportunity to be heard shall be provided to property owners adjoining the parcel under consideration. And so, by doing the 1,000 feet, we're allowing those folks that live within 1,000 feet to participate in that. Where technically the statute says those property owners adjoining the parcel, and typically with things that affect the lot coverage, width, depth, front yard, side yard, rear yard, setbacks, parking space, height of buildings, you're typically affecting your next door neighbor. And so a couple of the variances we had earlier this year where folks were, they bought their house 15 years ago. Their house is built in the middle of the lot, and now they're trying to build a shop and navigate it between the property line and their house and their septic tanks and their well and their yard and their favorite tree. And so if we had a 40% setback, we might be able to encourage them to, if you push it back inside that 40%, then that will give you the, that you wouldn't have to do the public hearing. We can notice your neighbors. I mean, the guys came in with letters from their neighbors, that they were all in agreement. There was nobody disputing it. And we could have taken care of that in the office. And that's the opportunity with this. Like I said, we don't have too many that are controversial.
And maybe that's a fair question then to say, okay, if you look at our variances, are there variances that would affect beyond the 1,000 feet? Literally would affect. The only thing I can possibly think of would be one where if you were encroaching on an intersectional right of way or something like that, and then we're basically driven by the road to bridge requirements for, visual setback, right? Right. Now, although I can think of one, it was probably on 3,800 and 48, where they were asking to put something closer to 38. And I believe we denied it because it was we just said, you know what? In this case, we know that road is gonna get widened at some point, and we're not willing to grant that variance based on future impact. But if that were to come something like this, I would think that would automatically get kicked out of that anyway. Am I correct in that thinking?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, we're not looking to do hard things. We're looking to take care of the easier stuff.
Should be taken care of.
Yeah. There are ways that we can, you know, cut down some of the red tape. Some of
Right,
it's necessary and it should be, you know, go through this process. Let me just tell you, the other thing that came of this, and you might, is the administrative exception. The attorney did not like that. And so that means that it all needs to be a variance. And so where we made
The administrative exception.
yeah, where we were allowing, if it was 10% deviation, then we were just approving it in the office.
Oh, without a variance.
Yeah, without a variance, and then he said, "Nah, you probably shouldn't be doing that." And I'm like, can I get that right? And so,
Well, I mean,
so we deleted it. So we deleted it. So the 40% is, there's no more 10% administrative stuff.
okay. I mean, you know, from public testimony, actually, it brought up a thought and some of the discussion that there is a potential issue, and I would call it bias for multiple offenders. Meaning, if all of your neighbors have a problem, and you go to them all and say, "Hey, I need a variance." Because you know what? You need a variance, and you need a variance, and you need a variance. So it's like, you know what? Right on. Yeah, I got no problem with your variance. I just, because it's like that, oh yeah, they found the insurance, there were problems, right? Well,
This Godfather enters PNC.
hey, I'm just saying. I mean, my world is how you facilitate stuff like, you know what? You got a problem, I got a problem. Let's take care of this, right?
That's bold, yes.
I mean, honestly, that's where I can see, that's where I can see some collusion, you know, maybe entering into the thing, but. And then the neighbor that's, you know, not adjoining is going like, hey. Those guys pulled it off and my neighbors won't let me pull it off. I'm gonna complain about it. Right?
Yeah, or capitalism. I mean, there's a check. Write your check.
But I mean, that's, I mean, as you look at it, so, but a question for it, so for example, you know, it comes in and they go through the process and he's like, yeah, the neighbors don't complain and you let it go. What about the case then 200 yards away? Same guy comes in and his neighbors, no.
They don't like it.
Exactly. And they come and go, whoa, wait a minute, those guys over there got exactly the same variance. Didn't have to do anything, and now I'm having to fight for it.
We had that.
I know we've had.
How do we
No,
avoid
we
it?
just had that.
Yeah.
That guy appealed it, we took it to the board, and the board overturned the decision. And issued the variance.
For the shop.
For the shop.
Right, yeah.
Because they'd already run through.
Well, no, that's because we did not. Well, yeah, I mean, it should have.
So you're right, I mean, it can happen, because we approved the one down the street, and then a couple of months later, this guy comes in and we tell him no, and so he appeals it.
It's too big. The shop's too big.
It was, well,
I mean, that was the,
so you're right, these things do happen, and that's why we have the appeal process.
So then basically, it wouldn't be, hey, you set a precedent by allowing them to do it, now I can't do it. There's a process for them to.
Yeah, there's a process.
John, way to blow your head up. That was a good point. That's a good one right there.
I mean, honestly, it is something that collusion with the neighbors, and these neighbors don't like them, and so they don't really care. They're gonna fight it no matter what, even though it's, so how do you?
But that's part of the reason we're here, is to say, okay, and we do that. I mean, we we see that in some cases where, you know what, I don't like the guy, we're not gonna do it. Well, you know what, in this particular case, we believe they have mitigated the concerns of the neighbor, even though the neighbor doesn't like it. If you mitigate those concerns, then, you know, sometimes we still grant it over the opposition.
Yeah.
On the flip side, though, if it's one of those where, you know, the neighbor actually, right, where, oh, whoops, I built it on your property, and the guy doesn't want to sell it, you know, then it's not. Okay.
That wouldn't even be a part of this.
I think I've only had one where staff approved it and the board. I think I've only had one. I mean, in all my years of doing this, so, and again, you just have to be not afraid to say, oh, hey, we're sending this to P and Z. I'm not making this decision. I mean, you can usually tell when folks start writing letters and can we not mitigate this? Okay, let's send this to P and Z and then let's have a public discussion about it.
That's good. Yeah, that's how we speak. Yeah, that's okay. Right. It's done. So what is the cost of doing it?
So a regular variance is $560. We haven't really set a fee yet for this, whatever you call it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pounds would be worse.
Euros. And then I think the other, we talked about 350.
Well, and I mean, from that perspective, I mean, and I like the idea of, oh, I haven't bought the building yet, but I wanted a 40 by 60, but maybe it has to be a 38 by 60 or whatever. And put me in there and say, you know, saves me the money, and, you know, in this case, I don't have to go to the public hearing. And again, if the immediate neighbors, because that's who's affected, but you're saying you're going beyond just immediate neighbors, you're going within that.
Yeah, we're doing 1,000 feet out. Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, we had a pretty simple ordinance put together and it's now 9 pages. So there's a lot of detail here.
Well, attorneys like to think that they're giving you something for all the money.
Yes.
Yeah, I could.
I think it probably did.
Yeah.
Okay. Additional discussion. Additional discussion. Motion.
That's something. For the staff report pretty. No, in there.
Well, in that wording, you need to add the removing section 112, 263B. Let it be.
112, 263, 30.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still trying to pick up everything. We're getting there.
That's the administrative section.
So it's, yeah, 96 to 100. Yeah. Rewriting 96 to 100.
Okay, recommend a motion. Or make a motion. I move the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed text amendment, chapter 112, version 3, variances, section 112 to 96 to 112 to 100. As set forth in the red line draft dated May 2026. And also exclude section or remove section 112-263B. Based on the findings set forth in staff report, the commission find The amendment is consistent with Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan and the requirements of the Idaho Local Land Use Planning Act.
My second.
Been moved and seconded to recommend approval of file number AM 26-0003, the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners for approval with the text as presented, excluding the sections as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Additional.
So just real quick, let me just explain a couple of things. So yes, next month, Hunter Chase is coming. The reason they got tabled is because they have 30 lots there, less than we need. There's about 29 something. They make the lots smaller in order to make the roads bigger. So we didn't realize until the last minute that they had adjusted those lots, and so because they didn't include it in their application, so we made them redo their application and include all that. And so then we renoticed a full-blown variance to go along with this application. We weren't going to issue an administrative exception on 30, lots that were within 10%. So we asked them to apply for a full variance. So that's what's up for next month, along with several other items. We continue to get requests for zone change. You'll have another zone change. This one's on the other side of Roberts. It's just on the other side of the cemetery. There's 120 acres next to, there's not 120, there's 30 acres and that's 70. So 30 on this side and 70 back here on the other side of the cemetery. So that will be in your packet. It's already posted on the website. You can look at those applications.
So can I go back to the previous item?
Yeah.
So what does it look like? They come in for a variance first?
Yeah, we'll hear the variance first and then.
How does that work when there's no plat yet?
There is. Because it's a preliminary plat.
Right, but we haven't seen the preliminary plat. We're seeing the very.
You are, because it's part of their variance application.
Also, it's all in one.
Right, I mean, technically, it's two applications. You can hear, you really need to decide on them separately. But it's, yeah. It's one, but it's not. Make sense?
So I get it, but then I'm sitting here going, well then, part of the process that, again, my feelings on the preliminary plat process here.
Yep. We're trying to change the code.
I know you are, but then I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. If it doesn't meet our requirements, why are they putting a preliminary plat forward? If it doesn't meet the basic requirements for making a preliminary plat? I'm just asking the question.
Yep, and that's rhetorical because I'm not gonna answer it. So we'll talk about it next month at the hearing. Come in and see me.
Okay.
The stuff's on the website. You can look at it.
No, I get it, but I'm thinking more pragmatically speaking, because we always make the statement that these matters that come before us have been vetted, that they meet the requirements, right? That they meet the requirements, and if they don't meet the requirements, then why would you make the application say, well, you know what? I don't quite meet the requirements, so I want a variance before I actually even have the thing put. It seems backwards to me.
It's not, because occasionally you'll do a zone change in the conditional use permit, or a zone change in the PUD, or a PUD in the subdivision plat, or a comprehensive plan and a
zone change first, not in conjunction.
Oh, yeah, so I'm not used to that. I've always done them together, the two applications. You just have to hear the one first and, hear the comprehensive plan map amendment. And if that gets approved, then you have the zoning change amendment. But if the comprehensive plan amendment doesn't get approved, you don't have the hearing. We've done this before. You don't have the hearing on the zone change. And so, but like I said, the original discussion was there was only going to be 6 or 7 of these lots that were sub-acre. And when we got looking at it closely, it ended
ended up being a lot more, and we said,
Well, but you can have a certain percentage that are sub-acre, but it's a percentage based. Right? Without a variance.
Well, again, this all came up because of the variance. Well, we just went through, right, where the attorney's office didn't feel like that we were meeting statute.
No, but I'm looking at just, if I go back and look on the subdivision, if a certain percentage of them meet the thing, then they don't require a variance, right?
I don't think so. I don't know that that's in the code. It may have been in the code back in the day, but
Okay.
it's not there anymore. I don't believe.
So if a subdivision is required to have 1 acre, is it allowed to have one of the lots be less than 1 acre? Yes.
I thought there was some percentage of it that if your well, maybe that's what I'm thinking. If your composite average is an acre.
Yeah, if you're talking about cluster, but we took all that cluster out. You can only do a full-blown cluster in the 20 acre and 40 acre zones. You can only do 3 clustered lots in 10s and 5s and 1. Not even the ones, 5s and 10s. So we could really change a lot of that to stop that stuff from happening. So,
But I mean, from, I'll say pragmatically speaking again, it's like, we're really striving to have these parcels meet the zoning requirement. And then we're saying, well, not really.
well, and you'll have to look at that and see if there's justification for it.
Then they come back to arguing, well, just delete one lot, then you'll be fine. But,
So,
right, I'm just saying, I mean.
again, we're back to the new road and bridge standards. So we're trying to address the new road and bridge standards and some of that other stuff. So we'll, like I said, we'll get into that application next time. Don't want to.
I know,
do it
but
ahead of time.
for our benefits, I'm sitting there going, okay, fine, help us understand, because to me, it seems.
It's probably things that you haven't done before because, you haven't had a planner that looked at stuff this way. Right? You just haven't. And so you're right. I'm definitely, bringing new ideas and thoughts on how this stuff happens.
No, and I got you, but I'm just, I'm thinking, again, from the whole perspective, where we go, well, geez, why don't you just make it compliant, and we don't have to worry about it, right?
That's the whole reason to have a variance.
All right, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So, yeah, that's some of the stuff coming up. What else? We signed a contract with a company called Madison AI. And basically they're taking all of our data and quarantining it in a data center. It's a bad word. What I call it, computer infrastructure. Warehouse. And so they're storing it and it's protected. And so we'll be able to use the full, ability of AI with it being quarantined.
Right.
And so it's really cool.
Using our own data sets, everything like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're excited about it. It'll take about 60 days to get it all uploaded and train the models to, but they're actually building the staff reports for us. So they'll all look alike and be uniform and meet the requirements. So just pleased with where it's going. That'll save a lot of time because it'll also help us with application reviews. We'll be able to upload the land use file and have it compared against code. Have it compared against the comprehensive plan, all of that. So it'll give us a lot more in-depth reviews. Plus, I'm hoping that with the foundation of Esri and the parcel data map, we'll be able to map our nutrient pathogen studies and then maybe be able to do analysis, right, on all the nutrient pathogen studies as they relate to each other on the map. And hopefully we'll be able to do some more in-depth studies on it and provide deeper information on how the growth is occurring.
Great.
So,
Great.
Yeah. Other than that, the YouTube and the Zoom was all a part of that. We've always talked about Zoom and YouTube being an option and, with YouTube, the AI will be able to do the minutes for us. It actually has a feature that puts together the minutes based on, based on the videos. And so, plus I really am in favor of having that record on YouTube. You could go back and look at some of these other planning departments and county commissioner meetings in some of these other counties. And, they've got hundreds of videos online. You can watch that history if you wanted to, you were so inclined, right? So it'd be nice to have.
I want to see my NIL agreement here.
Uh-huh.
We have our faces like cartoons or something though, would that be, keep our identity?
Yeah.
Or if you could use AI, then I want to look better.
Look a little bit.
If you don't mind. Technology's not there yet.
Yeah, right. We need your logo shirts represent your company. Oh,
Right.
Right.
I got sign up. 2 for 1 hamburgers.
Kyle, I'm here. I love my wife.
I'll be home soon.
You are still live, but
Yeah, we are still.
I just thought I'd mention that for all of you.
Yeah, we do enjoy it. We do enjoy it. Yeah, you can take that clip and throw it on TikTok.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Good ideas, fellas. Everybody's got good ideas.
Yeah, we just gotta figure out how to get Jared.
I know, I kept like, where's he at?
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn. I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
We're still recording, gentlemen, just for your information. Warning you because I'm waiting for the delay between the stream webinar.
No, that's funny, the kids over here getting that variance for that shed and stuff, and it's just so cute, to be honest, right? I mean, they do it, exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Their neighbors, like they're built on the property, I mean, as a board, you're looking at that, going,